Sony's Spider-Man villain cinematic universe has come to an end, and I just have one thing to say.
See you, chump.
What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got my review of Kraven the Hunter. This is the last installment in the Sony Spider-Man spin-off series, whatever the hell you want to call it. It was a movie that was actually supposed to come out last year. It got delayed an entire calendar year for some reason. I guess they were just delaying the inevitable. But before I give you guys my honest thoughts on this movie, be sure to hit that like button, comment your thoughts on this one down below, as well as your expectations or predictions if you have not yet seen it. Subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. If you want some extra content, you can find that over on my Patreon. Any support over there truly does mean the world. I'm just gonna cut right to the chase here. Kraven the Hunter was a brutal watch. It was rough, guys, and I'm not just saying that. It was a hard watch, and you know that from the jump. I'm talking, this movie opens with an out-of-context scene of these prisoners being transported to a facility, and one of them just so happens to be Kraven, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. He then breaks out really quickly, and then is rescued somewhere out in the middle of nowhere by some pilot friend of his that we never know. This is all within the first 10 minutes, mind you, and I'm gonna be all over the place with this review because I have to be. And then in signature Sony fashion, we get a 16 years earlier flashback where we spend time with a younger actor playing this main character, and that's the setup that's supposed to make us care about Aaron Taylor Johnson in the role. I have so many issues with this movie, and I feel like a lot of the problems that have plagued Morbius, Madam Web, even some of the Venom films are very present here. It's like they didn't learn their lesson with the main issues of all the previous films, and they're all just in your face here. I'm talking at a technical level, this is an abomination. Really choppy editing that's just distracting, and then you get into the actual ADR of the film, and it's just like I'm watching Madam Web again, where there's characters' mouths moving, and the lines they're saying don't necessarily line up with what we're hearing. It's also very noticeable when the actors went back and re-recorded lines, because the background sound of the environment that the scene takes place in just isn't there, so it almost sounds like someone added in a voiceover, like when you're recording a TikTok or something, and you can add voiceover text. It sounds like that in a big budget superhero film that's associated with Marvel and put out by Sony. I don't understand how these movies have continued to have life for this long. It baffles me. I mean, after Morbius, you'd have think they'd pulled the plug. No, they're gonna release 2 more after that until they realize that no one wants to see these movies. Like, I'm just baffled that someone watched this movie and said, yeah, let's put this out in theaters. And I just gotta go like point by point here. I mean, the technical aspects of this film are heavily flawed, but then you get into the writing, the dialogue, laugh out loud cheesy, and it's delivered so stiffly and awkwardly by characters that there's really no flow to it. There's also one moment in the film, I'm not making this up, where Harry Styles' Sign of the Times makes an appearance, and it was so out of place to me. There are just these little instances of scenes escalating rapidly with tension, and it's like, out of the blue, we've just made this situation freaking nuclear for no reason. These little scenes just add up to make a completely rushed film that feels like it was just an obligation to release in theaters. And if you want to get into Kraven's actual origin story here, it's so comically bad. I can't even begin to explain how goofy it is. I couldn't take this movie seriously, and it desperately wanted the audience to, and I was just like, no one here, no one that's going to watch this movie is going to walk out and be moved, because it just comes off as a parody almost the entire time. I was also surprised at how many villains this movie tried to shove down our throats. There's like 3 by the time the credits roll. It makes the Amazing Spider-Man 2's villains look like all-timers. I'm serious. Rhino's technically the main villain of this film, and he's basically Syndrome from The Incredibles or Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3, a character who looks up to someone, and that character, that respected figure, sort of disrespects them, and so they make it their life's mission to kind of come after them. And that's basically what the Rhino's purpose in this film is. You've also got another side villain. I honestly am forgetting his name as I say you're talking about it. I have to look it up. The Foreigner, how could I forget? This character who randomly enters screen and goes 1, 2, 3, and they can stop time. There was really no explanation as to how they could do it. It was just a real random sort of second level villain in this film. And then you've got the Chameleon in here as well, and in classic Sony style, by the end of the movie, they just do something so ridiculous that I can't help but laugh. And that's kind of, the big takeaway here is that this is a movie that's a big budget, R-rated superhero film. I'll get into the R rating in a second. You're supposed to take it seriously, but you just can't. It's laugh out loud, from beginning to end and just so sad. Getting into that R rating though, this is a prime example of a studio trying to save a movie at the buzzer with its rating. And how I know that is this is a very soft R-rated film. There's a couple F-bombs kind of just scattered around randomly just because they can, because they have the R rating. And then there's violence, but it's not like gratuitous to the point of something like even the first Deadpool. There's just a little more blood than normal. It even cuts away from a lot of the kills. I feel like they really went in on the R rating just to try and use that as a selling point for this movie because they were trying to save it, because they knew what they had. And so they said, you know what? All hope is pretty much lost with this project. So maybe let's go back, re-edit it. We'll delay the film. Let's re-edit it, add some more blood and maybe a little gore here and there, and push it as R rating so we can market it that way to maybe sell that to folks to get butts in seats. And I know this is the case because I was scrolling on TikTok about a month ago. I don't remember. It was within the last month. And Aaron Taylor Johnson was popped up on my For You page, and it was an ad for Kraven the Hunter. And the emphasis the entire time was talking about all the crazy shit that he does in this movie. And they were like bleeping out everything he said. And they went in on the violence. He's like, so I can't talk about when I boop, and he's like making stabbing motions, fighting motions, and they're like, nope, we can't say that here on TikTok. The whole selling point of that ad was you got to see all the violent, crazy stuff that's going to happen in this movie. And then you go watch it, and it's surprisingly tame compared to other R-rated comic book films. Like James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, way more in your face and violent, but it didn't need to use that as a selling point because that film had well-written characters. It was well-directed. It had an actual story to tell. This movie just feels pieced together. I don't even know why it was made. They could have honestly just scrapped this and the world might have been better for it. I've said this about Madam Web. I've said this about Morbius. So the fact that I have to sit here and do it again, 3 strikes, you're out. The Venom trilogy, we can kind of separate. 3 strikes, you're out with these origin stories, and this is the final straw. And I mean, I could just sit here and go on and on about how horribly done this movie is, but the performances are all phoned in. There are Oscar winners in this film. More than one. Russell Crowe, freaking Maximus Decimus Meridius in this film. And it's like he's doing this Russian accent, and I just didn't buy in at all. And then you've got Ariana DeBose, West Side Story 2021 Oscar winner. And she's in this film as Calypso, another underdeveloped side character who just randomly is kind of there when it's convenient. It's so frustrating. Oh man, this movie's riddled with issues. And then Aaron Taylor Johnson, I mean, he's a charismatic dude. I mean, in Bullet Train, he's the talk of the town, and that man's popping up on edits on every social media platform, and everyone seems to love him. I think he's a great actor, but here, even Aaron Taylor Johnson didn't give me much. There's a lot of cardboard line deliveries, and no one seemed bought in. And something that frustrates me deeply about this entire cinematic universe, Kraven specifically, is why are there so many jumps from location to location without ever seeing how our characters get there? We'll go from country to country in one scene. It'll be like, okay, we're here in this prison facility, and then boom, 16 years earlier, and then boom, 1 year later, we're in New York City now, by the way. Oh, we're back in this country all the way across the world. And there's no explanation except a little text that pops up on the bottom of the screen. There's no logic in this film. It's not even like a turn your brain off and enjoy it kind of ride. It is just disastrous from beginning to end. No one wanted to be there. There's really no semblance of a story even. At a technical level, the film is beyond flawed, and it's boring above all else. The movie's just boring. Yes, it's R-rated. You'll see some blood, but it's not even deserving of having an R rating. It's completely pointless, an unnecessary movie. And really the issue with Kraven is Kraven's a villain. He's a Spider-Man villain. Why are you trying to make him into the hero in this film? They do that with some of the other entries in this cinematic universe as well. It just is so unnecessary. This movie was a failure from a jump, and frankly, this entire cinematic universe was always a miss for me. I know I'm just beating a dead horse here, but Kraven the Hunter is just bad, guys. I can't recommend you go see this one in theaters. I think it's like a hair better than Madam Web and Morbius. Maybe I'll give this one 1 star as opposed to like 0.5 stars on Letterboxd. But even then, that's disgraceful that I have to sit here and be like, yeah, 1 star, it's a win for the Sony universe. Kraven the Hunter's not worth your time, and this universe fizzles out with this final entry. Good riddance. Those are my honest thoughts on Kraven the Hunter. I have not much else to say. I'm never going to watch this movie again, and I feel similarly about Madam Web and Morbius. But that'll do it. Let me know your thoughts on this movie down below. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, and of course hit that like button. I appreciate you guys for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.